Viewers and subscribers, welcome back to Beating the Press podcast. I am your host, Rafa. Now, coming up in today's podcast, we're going to be reviewing the big match which took place over the weekend. Manchester City running away big winners over Manchester United. And of course, keeping the pressure on Liverpool, who is still top of the table. Now, joining me this evening to review these matches, we have returning to the podcast, Christophe.
Good to be back against viewers.
Yes, indeed, Christophe. Lots to discuss, lots to dissect, lots to talk about. But the biggest talking point is obviously that runaway victory by Manchester City over Man United. Talk to us, Christophe, about that one. How did you see that game?
I don't know that I would call it a runaway victory. It's more a capitulation by Man United after a stupid Rashford play.
Well, I mean, credit must be given to Manchester United for making it somewhat of a competition. I mean, taking a surprise lead by a magnificent strike, I must say, from Rashford. And, at some point in time, the Arsenal and Liverpool fans might have been dreaming a bit, but that dream was quickly cut short. I mean,
It
can Man
wasn't
City
quickly
be stopped?
cut short.
Though, is the question.
They still have Liverpool to play, they have Arsenal to play, so that is where it's important to take points off of them. I mean, had Rashford been sensible and put himself between the ball and Kyle Walker, we might have been talking about a much different result. Because I'm not sure. I don't know if it's a dive or not. Looks like a dive to me, but what kind of an idiot dives outside of the box when you're true on goal? You're
Ah,
true
yeah,
on
it
goal and
was.
you dive outside of the box. It's absolutely
Well,
stupid.
I'm not sure if it was a dive or he was just off balance, but not necessarily enough to be classified as a foul, so to speak. I don't think it was a dive, but it was just a physical play by Walker who won the ball off Rashford, and then that pretty much set Man City on their way to grab that goal. But I thought it was a typical Man City performance, though, Christoph. It was a dominant performance by Man City. They totally bossed the game, dominated possession. You're talking about goal attempts, shot on target, goals in general. I mean, really and truly, if Man United hadn't gotten that early goal from that wonder strike, then it could have been way worse. But credit, I thought Manchester United came into the game with a good plan, which was to pretty much to park the bus, soak up pressure, and of course play on the counter. They did so to a very good effect in that first 20-25 minutes where, they surprised many by getting that first go-ahead goal. But I mean, even from the first minute, it was just all Man City. It was just really a matter of time before they broke Manchester United down. It's a good plan, but that plan need to have some teeth as well. You can't just give Man City possession and say, hey, come on, break us down. At some point in time, your defensive unit need a little rest. They need to flex their legs with some attacking play. And that was just not there from Manchester United any at all. It was just, their goal was just being bombarded by Man City pressure. And, in the end, eventually the pressure told, and it was Foden who came up with two brilliant strike, which really took the game away from Manchester United. And of course, Haaland got on the score sheet as well after missing what you could classify as a sitter, you know. But it was a predicted result from myself, Christoph. I mean, I predicted this one to end 3-1, and so said, so done. But did anything surprise you from this Man City performance, though, Christoph? Or it was just business as usual?
It was not business as usual. I think Man City dominated the statistics as we expected. We expected Man United to play on a counter attack, and that is what happened, right? Um, the result itself, like I said, had United had Rashford not done that stupid play, I think it might have been a much different result. For me though, I don't think it was business as usual for Man City. I think it was that first goal that really um got them back into the game, not in terms of, I mean, they were already dominating, but I don't think, had they not gotten that goal, I don't think it would have been there because I saw Man City defending in a low block and waiting to press. So it tells me that they were afraid of the Manchester United counter-attack.
Yeah, I mean, you have to come up with a plan against that counter attack as well. Garnacho, Rashford, speedy players, and of course Bruno was playing more almost like he was playing in a free role, all over the pitch really, and it was his hold-up play which gave Rashford the opportunity for that first goal. And I must say it was a magnificent strike, a goal worthy to win any match. But the only criticism I would have of that goal is that it came too early in the game. It gave Manchester City all of 60 plus minutes to really grab a goal to equalize and of course grab another one to go ahead. And that was pretty much the case. I mean, ever since Man U scored that goal, it was just all Man City. To me, watching that game, it was just a matter of time. No one in their right mind thought Manchester United would hold on for a win. It was just a bombarding of that Manchester United goal by City. Constant attacking play, constant possession, constant ball movement. And I'm surprised it wasn't more in the end, but in my estimation, it was a fairly comfortable 3-1 victory. Yeah, I mean, business as usual, in my opinion. I didn't see anything different from Man City. They were not pushed to their limit. And it was just another clinical performance by a dominant team, which obviously is more better coach, has better personnel, and is just performing at a different level compared to this Manchester United team. So while we predicted it for a Man City win, nothing much surprised me in this one, to be honest. Man U got their goal on the counter as we had anticipated. But it was just really Man City. It's just another 3 points in the bag, a fixture you had to see out, and there was nothing telling about this one.
No, nothing really. It was um it was the predicted result, even if I thought Man U could win.
Ah, I mean, on paper, yes, but when you really watch and look at this game, Christophe, I mean, Manchester United is just not on the same level as Manchester City right now. I mean, facts, you just have to face the facts. I mean, they had no chance in this game in all conversations, to be honest with you. And it took a wonder strike for them to even sniff the potential of a victory. I mean, how many goals like that will Rashford score in his career?
I don't know how many goals like that he will score in his career. I don't know if it's a wonder strike or not. A goal is a goal. It's still worth the same amount. Manchester United has not been on Man City's level for a very long time, but Man U tends to come up with big performances when met with rivals. So even if they're playing poorly for the entire season, all season they're getting beat by bottom tier teams. These are usually the games that they show up in, but I don't know. It's a case where they've fallen so far they can't even mount a defense against their local rivals. So it's very
mean,
disappointing for them.
it was a good plan by Ten Hag, in my opinion. You could see that he had a plan, which was good, and it worked for the first 20, 25 minutes to perfection, in all honesty. But it's a plan which could not be sustained throughout the entire 90 minutes. Football is just not played that way, Christoph. I mean, you can't be defending for the entire 90. I mean, Man City had what, 78% possession compared to what? Manchester United 22 or 23 is the final stats
26%.
I saw. I mean, it's a good plan to start, but then that plan has to evolve. You have to get a bit of possession. You have to play some football. You have to put some passes together. You have to put this Man City team under some form of pressure. You can't just be relying on your defense through the entire game and just allow them with total dominance, total possession. And that was what we saw in this game. So it was a good plan to start. I mean, no one expected Manchester United to go out there and be competing tooth and nail in terms of the possession stats. But when you look at it, 78 to 22 or 23, that's just not good enough at this level.
Hey, I maintain, had Rashford not decided to dive, he might have been on. Well, he was on for the second goal, right? He was on for the second goal.
Well, obviously
Yes,
the
he
confidence wasn't there. I
yeah,
mean, if you're
I,
gonna dive, it simply means that the confidence is not there. I mean, Kyle Walker was all over him, to be honest. So he had quite a bit of work
no, no.
yet to do.
Rashford had the goal in his eye. I don't know how you scored that goal in the first half and then have no confidence in the second half to not go take on the keeper and slap the ball into the bottom corner. He was beyond. Had he just dribbled towards goal, different thing. But he decided that he was going to wait and Kyle Walker to come and touch his shoulder because I don't think Kyle Walker applied any pressure.
Small margins
No,
indeed,
no, 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 not small margins. Kyle Walker touched him on the shoulder and he fell over and was calling for a foul.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, small margin because, as you rightfully say, I mean, one incident led to the other, which led to a goal. So,
Exactly.
it's the small margins that really made the big difference at the end of the day. But Christophe, what a Foden's performance! I mean, he's on another level, it would appear.
I mean, it's a brilliant performance for Fleetwood. This is what we've seen for him for years. I've heard people saying, how will his stats look this season, given that he's not out wide, and then he's in the center, he's influencing games. Now KDB's back says, oh, he'll be shoved out. He's performing brilliantly this season. I mean, last season, I
I mean,
guess
in
he
this
was.
game, he started on the right side, but then drifted in to the central and also on the left because the first goal it was him cutting in from the right hand side. And then the second goal, it was him popping up on the left hand side. So, he obviously has that freedom, but for this game, from a tactical point of view, he started on the right side, Doku on the left. I thought Foden played well, but Doku, a bit concerning to be honest with you, Christoph. I was anticipating a bit much more from Doku, but he seemed to have fallen off. It's almost as if right now he can't beat anyone off the dribble.
It could be a case where he might have just been a one-trick pony at this point. Only time will tell. But I'll be honest, this I didn't expect anything from him this game. I think he's only starting now because Jack Grealish, I believe, is injured. I think had Jack
Yes,
Grealish
Grealish
been
is
fit,
injured.
he would have been the one playing.
Possibly, but I mean, he started so well, with that pace running at defenders and being so direct. But the last couple of games I've seen him in is almost as if that directness has disappeared, that end product is lacking. So even when he does get into a shooting position, his shots are wild and off target. And of course, there's not much assist coming from him in the way of crosses or even through balls. So I'm not sure. It might be taking him some time to settle into the City 11, but I was anticipating quite a bit more from him. And just not living up to expectation at this point in time. But definitely, I mean, very impressive performance by Foden. It was really his skill set which really unlocked this Manchester United defense. And from the first goal went in, I mean, the writing was on the wall at that point in time. And of course, Haaland really missed a big chance. But luckily, it did not come to haunt him as later in the game he found the back of the net also. And by then it was done and dusted in all honesty, and that was as much as Manchester United gave. Not much to write home about. They avoided what you would classify as the humiliation. I mean, it was not 5, 6, or 7 goals, but at no point in time did I think they could actually win this game. They really did not put Man City under any sort of pressure, and it's a fair result. I mean, a deserved result for Manchester City, and they obviously keep the pressure on at the top of the table. Liverpool still leading the way, a point behind is Man City, and then 2 points down the line is Arsenal, and all three teams managed to win this weekend and is as you were going into next weekend. But Christoph, I mean, we saw Arsenal taking Sheffield apart this evening. I mean, what are your thoughts on that Arsenal performance?
It's a very good all-round performance. 6-0. They, I sort of expected more. I mean, you scored five in the first half and then only to score one in the second half could be a sign of them taking their foot off the gas for the game. Maybe there's a hey, the game is one, just go easy second half. I would have liked to have seen them show that they can do more, but it's not a game to read too far ahead of. Sheffield is bottom of the table, clearly not Premier League level. And I think we had beaten them, what, 5-0 earlier in the season as well. And everybody seems to be beating Sheffield. So while it's a good performance, keeps them in the title race, there are bigger games and more difficult challenges to come for them. So it's a matter of keeping um these performances coming and keeping consistent for the rest of the season if they want to win the title. Um, I mean, they're in a position where they have to kind of depend on other teams to help win them those points that they need to make it back to the top. They themselves have to beat City, but there are, I think we've already played Liverpool twice, so there's no more points to take off of Liverpool. So we actually have to rally on some other teams to help us with that one. But for the moment, good performance. They need to keep it up, especially for those bigger games and especially with Man City coming up. Those are the games that you do need those 3 points to go and push on for the remainder of the season.
Definitely a very splendid performance there. And of course, as you say, in the second half, Arteta really rested some of his key players. Saka was off at halftime, and it was just really to ensure the key players remain fit for the running. And when you have a game like this where you can actually take off your star players at halftime, I mean, that's definitely a luxury that you would want to take advantage of. And so said, so done. So it was a routine win, a routine 3 points for Arsenal away from home, of course. And as you say, the pressure is on. So Sheffield was not much of a challenge and really did not test them much. I think the team that got the best test over the weekend was Liverpool, really finding a late winner in that game versus Nottingham Forest. And it was Darwin Núñez who came up with the goods. And that goal in the dying embers of the game gave Liverpool 3 points, which they managed to keep themselves at the top of the table, dealing with a lot of injuries, a lot of players out. Uh, this weekend gave some players an opportunity for an extra bit of rest and time to recover, such as Salah. And the youngsters has been really keeping this team afloat. That's now 4 wins in 11 days. And most of those games have been with a makeshift starting 11. None of those 11s are really recognizable Liverpool 11s if everyone was fit and healthy. And the next big test coming up on Sunday is Man City, Christoph. I mean, any early reads into that game?
I can't make any early reads at this time until I know if players like Salah will be fit for that match. If I were to go based on the squad that played on the weekend, I think it will be an easy Man City win. Um, if Liverpool have some more of their starters back, different, potentially different outcome. But if they play with the same team that they played with at Nottingham Forest, then I think Man City get the win, get those 3 points, and we'll go top of the table. Because at the moment, I mean, it's Nottingham Forest. It's not your starters. It's your C team, but it's a bit concerning that they were struggling against, such a poor Nottingham Forest team.
Indeed. I mean, definitely, as I mentioned, a cause for concern, and it was just a case of can the kids hold it together for another game? And, they managed to pull through, getting a very narrow 1-0 win, but 3 points nevertheless. And as I mentioned, we saw Darwin Núñez is back now, so I think he should be fit to face City. Salah based on how Klopp have been talking in the previous game, then I think Salah, you should be able to get a quality 60, 65, 70 minutes out of a healthy enough Salah. I mean, will that be good enough against this Man City team is yet to be seen. But luckily for Liverpool, this one is taking place at Anfield, and we know the sort of psychological effect playing in that fortress of a stadium can have on, opposition teams. And I don't believe Man City is any different. The fans will be out in their numbers. This is pretty much a top of the table clash. This is pretty much, Christopher, a title deciding game, so to speak. If Liverpool want to be champions, then they have to beat the current champions and they then hold firm,
Arja.
throughout the rest of the season. So, yes, I mean, Liverpool do have that psychological effect since they're leading the league by a point. A draw would be good enough, but at the same time, you have to be wary of Arsenal. So why would you necessarily want to draw and then leave the door ajar for Arsenal to step in?
Yeah,
So
but if all you have are the kids to play, I think Liverpool will be happy to come away with a draw.
no, I think Klopp will definitely be coming up with a plan. I mean, close to your first choice backline should be there. I mean, minus Trent,
Uh,
Van Dijk and Alisson, of course. But Kelleher has been, holding his own, to be honest. And at this point now, he has gotten quite a bit of experience under his belt with Alisson missing. So I don't think this game will come him in terms of any sort of nerves or anything of that nature. He is well seasoned in the league now. And of course, he came up big in the Carling Cup final, winning Liverpool their first trophy of the season thus far. So it's just a matter of the attacking threat. I think that's where Liverpool lacked the potency over the weekend. But as mentioned, with players coming back, Salah, Diaz should be there. Nunes should be there. So possibly that should be your starting three. And then with the likes of a Gagpo coming off the bench, of course, McAllister will be starting in that midfield. Endo should be coming back as well. So again, that midfield balance is getting back. I mean, when you look at the likes of a Joe Gomez playing in midfield versus Nottingham Forest, these things are unheard of, so it is what it is. We're a makeshift team, but still managing to get that 3 points. But I mean, lots more taking place elsewhere, Christophe, over this weekend. I mean, Aston Villa managing to pull off a victory, having gone ahead 2-0, were pegged back, but then found the winner late. And we must start talking about a player such as Douglas Luiz, Christophe. I mean, some years ago he was linked with Arsenal, but he seemed to be really rounding into his own right now. I would say he is a top five midfielder in the league currently. What says you?
who else makes up that top five?
So I would throw in the likes of a right. Obviously, number one would be Rodri. And then I would say maybe two, you could throw in maybe a Rice, a McAllister, maybe in and around there as well. But definitely Douglas Luiz has to be there around. He has to be there, fourth or fifth.
Not top five, maybe top 10,
Oh,
not top five.
no, man. I mean, if you're looking at how this Aston Villa team is playing, everything is really going through Luis right now. I mean, and not only is he, coming up with the goals and assists as well, he is really stern from a defensive point of view also.
Hmm?
So, credit has to be given to this Aston Villa team. Again, they continue to maintain their status in that top four. And Ole Watkins right now is one of the hottest strikers around. I mean,
If you ask me if Ollie Watkins is top five striker in the league right now, I would say yes, but I don't know about Douglas Luiz being top five midfield.
yeah, but I mean,
There are a number of midfield players that are having excellent seasons.
mm, yeah, I mean, you could throw in a Odegaard in there as well. But my
Phil
money,
Foden.
well, I'm not sure who you classify Foden as a midfielder or
Oh,
as
no,
a winger.
so
I'm talking about more of a midfielder, a
I mean,
central midfield, defensive
Foden
midfield.
Foden is not a midfielder, but his majority of the season he has played in the midfield.
Are you sure of that? I know
Yeah,
Man City rotates quite a bit. I
yeah,
mean,
they do rotate, but majority of the season he's been playing as
mm,
a center attacking midfielder.
well, yeah, I mean, Kevin De Bruyne is back now, so, Foden has been pushed out wide. But for sure, point I'm making though is I have to give credit to Douglas Luiz. He was linked closely with Arsenal a couple seasons ago, and I mean, I can definitely see now what they possibly had seen in him because he is really, playing some quality football and really has Aston Villa right up there in the top four. So. Kudos, hats off to Emery. He continues to elevate this Aston Villa team and, they continue to push and maintain their status in the top four.
They
But
seem
was
to
there,
be
yeah,
they seem to be leaking a bit of goals of late, unfortunately. So it's something to keep an eye on for Emery. At the moment, he will need to talk with the defense, and the defensive midfielder to see how they can fix the number of goals they've been conceding of late.
yes, definitely. I think that is the major concern. But again, that team has really been devastated by injuries, to be honest. Their main center backs are out injured in all honesty. So that has to be a consideration when you lose your center back pairing or your first choice center back pairing, then undoubtedly it will have an impact on your defense and the concession of goal. But they have a talisman in Watkins, and also credit must go to Leon Bailey as well. Continue to provide assists and goals. He is quickly becoming one of the top wingers in the league, Christophe. I mean, he has to be in the top 10 as it relates to wingers in the league right now.
He's having a good season in the league right now.
Yes, and I mean, quality is quality and the numbers don't lie. I mean, when you see his statistics and you match it up against the other wingers in the league, then he's right up there.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not saying he's not having a good season. I'm saying, just saying somebody is quality after having one
Quality.
good season, I think is a bit premature. That being said, I expect him to continue next season.
Well, I mean, you seem like a hard man to please, but I mean, the numbers don't lie, and he's having a tremendous season, goals and assists right now. He is an automatic one assist man per game at least right now. I mean, with the combination of him and Watkins, that is a good match. And that is a combination that's going to produce goals and assists for this Aston Villa team for
So,
the foreseeable future.
so
He
you
recently
think
signed, yeah.
you think he's somebody Liverpool should be looking at for the future then?
Ah, that is a tough call. I mean, Liverpool is known to buy younger wingers. So his age is the thing which may rule him out. In all honesty, Liverpool isn't really known to buy players in his age group, which 26, 27, 28. Liverpool tends to go for younger wingers in you're talking about under 25. When you look at the likes of a Gagpo or a Diaz, these are even a Darwin Nunes, these guys are coming in under 25, and that has been the Liverpool policy. But Leon Bailey, to me, has a good fit at Aston Villa. And, sometimes you put players in certain position, you get the best out of them. And I think right now, Aston Villa and Leon Bailey makes a good match. And I think Aston Villa are currently reaping the best of Leon Bailey right now. So if it's not broken, I don't think you should change it. Let's see him continue to progress under Unai Emery, and hopefully in the future, we will see the best of him continue. So yeah, but Christoph, was there any other game which stood out for you? I mean, over this weekend, any other standout fixtures in your mind?
Um, Standout fixtures. I don't believe so. Maybe Tottenham beating Crystal Palace 3-1, but I feel like that was more expected result. I think probably the result where Newcastle beating Wolves, who I believe Wolves is a team that has been surprising you this season to get beat 3-0 by a reduced Newcastle side is probably a bit telling. Maybe they're finding back their form, or maybe it's a case where Wolves are not as good as you think they are. I mean, what is
Yeah,
your take on that one?
that was definitely a surprising result in all honesty. I thought it would be a much closer and closely fought game in all honesty. So I was quite surprised to see that Wolves really played out 3-0. It was quite shocking. I mean, Wolves have been having a tremendous season, but that consistency might be what is now getting the better of them. It's been a long season. Hopefully, they're not running out of gas, but they have been getting some good results. Their position in the table is well warranted, I believe. But this game was just one which surprised, and definitely they will have to go back to the drawing board and hopefully they can bounce back from this victory. But it was a victory which Newcastle needed as well. Newcastle has really been slipping down the table, and this win would have stopped the flow. Isak getting on the score sheet, Gordon getting on the score sheet as well, and Newcastle going back to what we have known Newcastle for, which is really keeping it tight at the back and then pinching a goal here or there up front. And they went back to basics on this one, keeping Wolves out and keeping a clean sheet and still managing to score 3 goals. So credit to Newcastle, credit to Eddie Howe for really bouncing back to a victory. But definitely this would have been a disappointing result for Wolves. And one of the key things is their talismanic striker is now injured. Hee Chang, he has been one of the surprise finds of the season, and he has managed to score 10 plus goals, which has really given Wolves that platform for wins. And with him now out injured, with Cunha, the Brazilian, also injured, those are two of their top goal scorers. And we may very well now be seeing the impact of those injuries where goals are now hard to come by. So watch out for Wolves. This may be a dip in their farm, and if they can't find some solutions for those two players now being out long term, then they might find themselves closer to the bottom of the table rather than in mid-table right now. But definitely a surprising result, but credit to Newcastle going forward. And of course, Spurs managing to get a victory over a galvanized Crystal Palace team now under new management. So Crystal Palace would have been feeling the new coach bounce, but Spurs really rallying and getting a win and keeping the pressure on Aston Villa for that top four berth, you know. But I'm not sure. Is it now too far ahead for Spurs, Christophe, in terms of a top four finish? Or are you now sold on Aston Villa maintaining that top four?
I mean, it's not too late for them to make the top four. Aston Villa could slip. We don't know. Um, Spurs, I believe, last season finished the season with 60 points. Right now they have 50 and 26 games played. So they're on course to beat last year's points tally. Whether or not they come top four, it remains to be seen.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, they started the season on fire. Spurs, dropped off in the middle, but are now picking back up. So it has been a up and down season for Spurs. It seems as if that early momentum which they started off with have brought them through. They've gone through some bad patches, but eventually, the tactical approach of Ange really have stood the test of time, and he has stuck with his principles throughout the season. And players coming back, Son is now back, Madison is now back. Werner, we saw Werner scoring on the weekend. So the message seems to be getting through to the players. But I think Spurs are where they should be based on how they have played through the season. I don't think they're punching above their weight, and I don't think they are necessarily operating below expectation. I think they are where they should be based on their personnel and the results they've gotten thus far in the season. So around fifth, sixth, seventh, I think they might very well finish around there. But my money is really on Aston Villa for that top four finish, in all honesty. But at this point in time, Christoph, I mean, looking at the top four, where is your mind leaning in terms of who is going to win the title?
Um, at the moment, I don't have any leanings as yet. I think this weekend will tell me if I should lean towards somebody specific like a Man City. If Liverpool win or draw this weekend, then I will lean towards Liverpool at the moment. But at current, I feel like the title race will go down to final day. I think the title will be won on match day 38.
Mhm. Match day 38. That would be historic if all three teams are still involved come the final day, where depending on how results pan out, either team can win. So, I mean, I see Arsenal banging up a lot of goals. It may very well come down to goal difference, is what you're saying then.
Potentially, but I mean, it could be a case where the teams are going into game week 38 and it's still a single point separating all three. So the final day results will determine who is the winner of the league.
Ah, indeed, that would be quite magnificent. And if Liverpool were able to lift that title, it would be a grand send-off for Klopp. But any quick final thoughts, though, Christoph, before we close out?
Not this week.
All right. Well, definitely, again, Christoph, just like to thank you again for coming on board. Quite an interesting perspective you've brought to the fore in terms of a possible final day showdown between all three top three teams currently, Liverpool, Man City, and Arsenal. Uh, Weekend coming up, another big match. This one, Liverpool versus Man City. And viewers and subscribers, we will be here to preview that one and to give our views on that. Thanks again, viewers and subscribers, for tuning in to us here on Beating the Press podcast. Please continue to share, like, and of course, leave your comments. But until next time, this is Rafa signing off.